Hello, everybody. This is Erin, and you have just joined episode 3 of the If You Could See Me podcast. Today, I am talking to my friend, Ray Bullock. He is a comedian, an actor, a wrestler, a burlesque performer. He is a mental health advocate. He is someone who lives with bipolar disorder and talks openly about his experiences. Ray is an unbelievable comedian. Once again, super, super funny guy. Someone that I've known for a really long time. Almost 20 years, and has always been so supportive, so kind, so open-hearted to me, to my ideas, to all the creative things that I put out into the world. And he is so good at creating community. I really, really enjoyed this conversation with Ray. We got to get really intimate and dig down deep in a way that we don't often have the opportunity to do with many people. And that's why I love this medium so much. It's why I love to sit down and get to talk to people. And they know right off the bat, hey, we're going to touch on some pretty intense, pretty personal stuff. And I ask them in advance if there's anything that's off limits. And of course, Ray is an open book. So I hope that you will check him out at the 955 Club, Fool's Day Comedy. Google Ray Bullock comedian, and so many wonderful things come up. He is a dear, dear friend and a wonderful human being, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks so much.
Okay, hello. It's me. It says talking, Erin Mahone.
Nice.
So it knows that I'm talking.
Nice.
But it's not going to say that Ray's talking.
Because it just will not acknowledge me, like many things in my life.
Oh, no.
That's why I'm here.
Okay, hi everybody. This is another episode of the It Runs in the Family.
No.
If You Could See Me podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I am here today with my amazing friend of almost 20 years.
Almost, yeah.
Ray Bullock, the amazing stand-up comic, burlesque performer, wrestler extraordinaire.
I do what I can. If you have many jobs, you'll never be without pay.
Well, that's very true. That's actually, it's what do they call that? Not putting all of your eggs in one basket
type of thing. If only I had eggs. I just have the basket. That's all I have.
Awesome.
Just me in a basket skipping through a field of posies.
So that's a
visual, right?
That's a good visual. I like that.
Yeah,
I would like to see you.
No, my big's horrible. My big bald head skipping it's stuff of nightmares.
It's very fun.
Yeah, it's that movie. It's skipping. It's
my
bad.
next door to her 10-year-old, reading that to her 10-year-old
What?
yesterday.
What?
Like real excited. The daughter is like real excited about it.
Okay, sure.
She was like, yeah, this is awesome. And when mom tried to dial it down a little bit and censor it,
Yeah.
the daughter was like, that is not cool, Mom. Read it the way it's supposed to be written.
Oh, God.
She's like a hardcore kid.
Yeah, that's not a hardcore kid. I know drunken sailors that are like, just stop, dude.
Stay
Just
away.
not doing that.
No crazy clowns for me.
No. Even though I was a clown for a while.
You were a clown?
Yeah, I was a clown. My family were clowns. I thought we had talked about this.
Did I know that?
Yeah.
A billion years ago.
Yes.
Billion years ago.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
start there.
Yeah.
Let's actually start there.
Okay,
Let's
sure.
start with Ray's family. I want to know how Ray became Ray.
Well, after my father got out of the military, after his tours in Vietnam, he decided to join Clowns of America, which was a division of Ringling Brothers and all this other stuff.
Had he always wanted to be a clown?
I have no idea what he always wanted.
Just wanted to get as far away from Vietnam as possible.
Well, no, not even that. Well, since we're talking about that, he had a wide variety of mental issues, PTSD. I think he was undiagnosed schizophrenic, to be honest with you.
Really?
Well, he was diagnosed with a bunch of stuff. He had medical records and mental records that were in binders that he kept. I'm crazy. I suppose I know I'm crazy. I got papers to prove it. Which I finally now saying, now. So we have that.
Right.
We have, then he got arrested for owning massage parlors, as it were.
Where?
This is here in Richmond, Virginia. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So my father was a drill instructor, clown. That's of my lineage right there. So is it any wonder I'm on medication? Yeah, it's just like this kid's gonna have lithium.
Is that before you? So was that before you were born?
Yeah, this is before I was born.
Dad was arrested for owning massage parlors. Wow,
we were born.
Wow. Okay.
He stayed with Clowns of America, owned like a couple of gas stations. He met my mom.
Right.
Who had 3 children from a previous marriage. Got them into clowning. Got my mother and my brothers and my sister into clowning.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I was born, and I was put into clown. Youngest clown working in North America. A Southern Living magazine, August 1977. Right over here. So yeah,
that's your claim to fame.
Yeah.
So you started from birth.
I did. I started from birth with that. So there was that.
So wait a minute. Was your dad like into comedy or theater?
No, he was mostly the clown, the magic stuff. And a friend of his, Woody Thomas, who owns Just for Fun Magic Industries and all that, was just big. They would think here. So he would do magic acting. He would also do the clowning stuff as well. Then.
You can imagine that being my childhood.
Right. Vietnam vet who does magic and also has clown makeup on. Rob Zombie's next film. That's what's happening
it's
right now.
Possible,
yeah, exactly.
You should take that to Hollywood.
Yeah, Captain Spaulding, right there. That's the Devil's Rejects was just my father. But her mom actually moved around quite a lot. Did some surfing in her youth, which she was proud of, and then also raised 4 kids after her and my father split up because even though Dad was present, he was the wrong kind of president, as you know. The Vietnam, a lot of people sparked up, a lot of flashbacks, a lot of flashbacks. Yeah, so that's how that happened.
Wow. So how did you end up? How long did you clown?
I clowned for, I think until I was about 3.
Okay.
Then my parents got divorced.
I gotcha.
They kept getting back together off and on, which, by the way, if you divorce someone, just stay. Don't do that. Don't. It didn't work the first time. You're not going to improve with age. Okay. It's not. It's like a table wine. That shit turns to vinegar. Right. You don't put that in your head.
Especially if you got like PTSD and undiagnosed mental health issues. And,
Yeah. And it's just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But
okay, so how did you go from being a child clown to being an adult clown? In the best possible.
If we really want to go with the Freudian sense of it, all performers are just missing something in their soul that they're looking to fill. But Freud also had an ancestral thing with his mom. So take into account whatever you want.
Take it or leave it, right?
Yeah.
Take what works.
Actually, I started. Of course, I learned really early. If I make people laugh, I got attention. So I was doing like sessions of John Wayne stuff when I was like 4 or 5 years old, family functions like that, and doing stuff like that, drama stuff in school, and everything of this nature. And I started working at theater. I started touring and started daring jokes on Dare. I got
How old were you?
I think 18. First show at the Empire. My first show at the Empire. Which was fun. Yeah, the Empire Theater. Yeah, it's just I can't. Yeah, it's just. Then I got with comedy sports, and I was already doing stand up at my 18. I started that my senior year of high school. And then got up at open mic one night on a Dare from the people from Theater 4. And I started telling jokes, and that just led to that stuff. And then years later, started theater companies and blah, 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 and touring and Mystery Dinner Playhouse and things like that.
Right.
So that's kind of where my performance aspect came from.
Right. Did you have, like, when you were a little kid, were you really into comedy? Or
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you always look at it and go, oh, that's something I'd like to do? Or
always.
Really?
Always. I knew I wanted to be a stand-up comic when I was 11. And I mean that sincerely. I was actually having a conversation with a good friend of mine, Stephen Seals, right after my father passed away. He and I had one of those deep, introspective conversations. And he actually gave me a great compliment. He said, no one knows what they want to do when they're 13. But you always wanted to tell jokes. You always knew that. So in that aspect, I was really lucky because I didn't have to have that decision.
Right.
A couple of times I forgot that's what I wanted to do, and I tried to like sell cars or manage restaurants, and it was just
it never works out.
Never works out. And if anybody ever says an Applebee's, you want to manage an Applebee's, don't do that. The 2 for $20 is not worth it. It's
don't go into Applebee's. I probably shouldn't say that since we're recording this.
Oh no! I'll say it. Aaron doesn't have the hatred of them as I do.
Away from chain
Any big box restaurant, their kills aren't killing them; they're killing themselves. Right? When you literally say, "I'll give you 2 entrees for $20," you know
it's not going to good.
Yeah,
it's not going to be good. So when you were a teenager and started experiencing challenges with your mental health.
I was put on Ritalin when I was 6th grade. That's when I first started my.
What was wrong, so to speak, that got on Ritalin?
Dreamer, daydreamer, many were points. He's a daydreamer and he's unfocused and blah 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 blah. It couldn't be anything wrong with our educational system at all.
It's gotta be you.
No, it's good. It's not the it's not the system.
Right.
I don't want to say it's teachers. Said a lot of great teachers.
Right. No,
I don't want to say that.
No.
That started manifesting. I got on Ritalin, and I learned out real quickly that the potholes in mental illness are prevalent because no one instructed me or my parents how to get that medication. The Ritalin that I was prescribed was for the first week I was only supposed to take half the dosage so my body could get used to it. They never told us that. I took all of it. So I was literally falling asleep, sitting up. I was drooling.
Right.
It was horrible.
Right.
And after about 3 days of this, it took her 3 days, by the way.
Your mother?
Took my mother. It took her 3 days to say, hey, crap kid now. What's going on?
Drooling on.
Yeah.
You're not drooling. This is not
drooling,
normal.
He's falling asleep. He's not responsive. What's going on? Oh, he wasn't supposed to take all of it. Well, it would have been good to know that. Which that type of story is prevalent throughout that.
Of course. What year was that?
I want to say
grade,
that
11,
was
12 years old. 90?
Oh, wow. I want to say 89, 90, somewhere around there.
Right.
Time.
No, I know.
I had a coke habit for years. Time is unrelative.
Time is relative, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore.
No.
I'm just thinking about, how prevalent Ritalin those types of drugs, Ritalin, Adderall, and all of that have become over the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that a lot of kids were on Ritalin.
No, very few. That's when it first started to come out as this cure-all. Which, do not get me wrong, I am.
Your meds
are
good.
Yeah, meds are good.
Yeah.
I do
if
think
they're the right meds.
If they're the right meds, I do think meds are overprescribed.
Yeah.
To be honest,
yeah.
And like I said, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people that would not be with us today if it wasn't for medications.
No question.
But I think we've entered into a realm of this. Oh, take this.
Right. Oh, you don't want to do A, B, or C, a pill, because all I can do is tell you to take medicine. I can't tell you to change anything about your lifestyle.
I can't tell you to get a nice sleep pattern. I can't tell you to exercise on a regular basis.
Get in the sun every once in a while.
Exactly.
Make sure you've got everything that you need. No, I mean, it's comprehensive, and it absolutely has to be, and that is we are incorrectly and adequately prescribed overprescribed medication.
Most definitely.
So how did the Ritalin, once you knew how to take it, did it change things for you?
No. Actually, I will go deep real quick. It led, in all honesty, to my first suicide attempt.
How old were you?
I think I was 12, maybe 13. That was the first one. It wasn't the medication that led me to that. Right. Something had happened at my school, and see my father with it, because I knew the punishment would be massively severe. So I just figured he's keeping me prisoner anyway. I just might as well check out. So forgive me for going too dark or too deep with this.
What we're here for.
The boys' bathroom. I took the shoelaces out of my sneaker and I put them through where they have tiles, shut tiles. A teacher came in and saw me and took me to Mr. Porter's counselor's office. Mr. Porter, Mr. Porter contacted Child Protective Services, and that Springs me admitted to Poplar Springs Hospital.
Grade? 7th grade? 6th grade?
I think it was 7th grade.
Oh my
I think it was 7th grade.
Okay.
That was the first.
To that. Parents respond to that.
My father was in. My mother was playing the role, because father. She was my father. He was dealing with his own mental issues at that time, not accepting from any help from the Veterans Administration at that point.
Okay.
So he was in denial about a lot of things with his own mental health. Mm-hmm. So nothing wrong with him. There was nothing wrong with him. So in effect, there couldn't be anything wrong with me.
Right. So you just ignored it.
Yeah, I was attention. I was paying attention. I wasn't, what have you.
How did that make you feel?
A little betrayed.
Yeah.
But ignored. Well, with him, he changed dramatically throughout my life. Mm-hmm. At that particular moment, you were supposed to be weak.
Right.
You were not supposed to have anything wrong with you, or you weren't supposed to present anything wrong with you.
You're just supposed to look like everything's okay.
Exactly, and go and suck it up.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think Jewish, especially with the Jewish heritage on my mother's side, there was too much of the whole, oh, my boy. Right. It was like on the other side. It was like on the other side. It was dirt on it. You'll be fine. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. But yeah, that was attempt number one time. It was a fun time.
And so did you get meds? Did they change?
No.
Did they? How was your 12-year-old experience in a hospital?
It was different.
Did you walk away from that feeling impacted at all?
No. Yeah. In fact, I was a little bit more solitary afterwards, because it was leading to huge fights between my parents, and then we had to fight with counseling that we met with that was required and all of that, and my parents were not ever together ever, and I kind of took that as, don't bring anything else up, just causes conflict, that's all it causes.
Right.
So really shutting down with a lot of that. I didn't have a lot of close friends for the rest of my adolescence, because we weren't supposed to. Right. Dependence is weakness. That very mentality.
That very dysfunctional way of relating to the world.
Exactly. And plus, I was had a lot of stuff going on in the brain, so I couldn't be close to people. Right. My brain wouldn't let me.
And you were still on Ritalin.
No. We stopped. My mother actually took me on that when, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. She took me off of that. They found out that, it wasn't prescribed correctly.
So you never were really on. Wow.
And for about a week, and with them overprescribing and not telling us how to do it, she was like, well, they don't know what they're talking about. So,
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Great. It was recommended. I forget the cocktails that were recommended when I got out of Poplar Springs. Didn't go on those according to he doesn't need them.
Right.
So there was that.
Did your classmates know?
No, nobody paid attention to me.
So, okay.
I was the weird oddball kid who, liked to be silly and goofy and crazy. For the rest of my middle school years, I wore a trench coat and had long hair covering my face. I didn't want anybody to look at me, but I didn't want to be seen by anybody. The stereotypical stuff.
Right.
It's par for the course with a lot of people, especially with this type of issue. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that people that aren't doing that don't, because they have mental issues.
But that's what is sort of what people expect.
Yeah. I was a stereotypical one.
The kid that's, depressed or, has a mental health, mental health. It definitely, it comes in all shapes and sizes and looks, but, the other side, that it's very often that the kid that you were is discounted by people and discounted by people, or oh, he's a weird deeper. He looks deeper. He looks deeper and says this is a person that's in pain. This is a person who's not getting what he needs from the world in many different ways.
Mental and we talked about this a couple of times. Mental illness is one of the ultimate taboos. Right. You can't bring it up at parties. You can't talk about it. Right. You don't mention it.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and after the last attempt that I had, don't get me wrong, that before friends of mine, that before I attempted to do what I was trying, I was pushed consciously, I was pushed subconsciously, I was pushed. I didn't because I didn't want them to be around me because I knew what I was about to do. Right. And there, something came up that allowed me to do that very effectively. And I still got to make amends for that because they're not wanting to stand that right now, which I understand that completely and totally. I went full double barrel with a couple of things there. But even the ones that I didn't do that towards, they're shying away. I had a friend of mine, I'm in the performance world, and I put out a lot of canceled all the acting, and after I got out, after I was on a wonderful 72-hour hold, which, by the way, if ever you want a nice vacation, I highly recommend a 72-hour psych hold.
Nice.
Yes, a wonderful coat. You can hug yourself. It's great.
Really?
Oh, no. I wasn't restrained.
They didn't restrain you.
No. If they restrained me, I would still be in the hospital. I admitted myself, actually. Good. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that is good. But one of them, hey. Well, if anybody wants to meet, ask them whatever meet here. We're going to meet. I'm going to meet here. I'll talk. I'll tell you what all happened, why I was doing what I wanted to do. And one of them called me up the day of and said, "Hey, I'm still trying to come." And there's a part of my thing, and there's a part of my brain that was trying. What do you have to come to terms with? I mean, you didn't. You weren't trying to sell someone. You're not trying to sell it. It is one of those things that people are so afraid of, because. I think it's a mirror,
Of course. They don't want to see anything of themselves in that kind of pain.
Well, and it's also, especially with a suicide attempt, a lot of people have that whole, you're not, that's ingrained. I mean, in all religions, you don't take your own life. Yeah. Unless you're Buddhist, but that's another story. They're going to come back anyway.
But that's not a religion; it's a philosophy.
Right.
You can be lots of different religions and also be Buddhist. In that particular instance, you may be conflicting with yourself, but
But are you telling me that religion
what about religion isn't doesn't have some conflict, so it's okay.
But they shy away from it. Yeah. And I think they do it for their own preservation. I can't blame them for that. I can't, how dare you, blah, 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 blah. You're doing what you feel is right for you to protect your own self. Right. But also there's a part of me like,
I come to be here.
Yeah.
To be here.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting when you kind of know when you're in a conversation with someone that they're not ready to have, because you can see that moment where they just shut down. They're not there anymore. And it's like, okay, and it happens a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's really often where you go, a great conversation, and we just crossed into territory that's now making you very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you're not here anymore.
Nope. It's a huge switch. It's a huge switch. It's a huge switch. It change, it's demeanor change, it's a total attitude change, vocal pattern change. You can truly see it. Yep. And I'm the outpoint of, I'm fortunate to know people and people. Right. And I got a huge help. We didn't know this was happening. I wish we did. Talk to me next time. I would love to, blah, 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 blah. We're here. A huge outpoint of that after everything happened. And still coming in. But there is that aspect of the people that I thought would be the ones saying, "Hey," are like,
it's a little too close for them.
Too close for them, and that's fine. I understand that. I totally understand that.
On the two, you kind of have to. I mean, you don't have to. You can be mad and frustrated,
but it doesn't do anything.
Well, right?
It doesn't do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think about this and I think about how, the purpose of conversations like this, like recorded conversations like this, or programs like If You Could See Me, or, any of the millions of other things that are happening, this is, of course, and I'm going to show you this, and nobody who's listening to this but can hear this or can see it, but an article about the creator of This Is My Grave. So this is another person who is at her mental health, about her mental health journey, and with her diagnosis, with her diagnosis, and by it, and empowered by it. And I have to believe that, through of having conversations, very frank conversations like this about, things that typically make people uncomfortable, that, over time, people will, it'll just become another thing that they're used to hearing about. And we can talk about cancer, we can talk about, used to be you talked about cancer and always,
Well, and I think it's, like I said, I think it's one of the last real taboos.
Right.
Because more and more medical stuff like cancer is coming out. Talks about racial issues are slowly coming to the surface, and also mental illness issues coming to the surface. I mean, take the incident, that Honor incident that has recently happened, or those big celebrity breakdowns that have been happening,
that people are actually talking about, as opposed to ridicule when when the situation happened with Britney Spears 10 years ago. She was just an out of control celebrity.
Exactly.
She wasn't looked at as somebody who was at a mental health issue. And, I think now we are a little bit better prepared 10 years later to look at those circumstances with famous people and not be quite so judgmental. We're still pretty awful as a society to famous people.
Well, famous people, I think, we're best, and a lot of aspects, we're pretty awful
to each other
in general. Right. So I am also a left-wing pinko commie.
Me too. Me too.
And I went to the rally here in Richmond.
I was out of town. I'm really sad.
Oh, no.
I really wanted to be there.
It was 700 people against 7. So, I mean, the word custard comes to mind. But, no, I mean, we're still just horrible to one another. And it's accepted a lot. I mean, and on both sides. That's not, a left or a right thing. There are people that are on the right that are some of the most kind, caring,
loving, wonderful, people. Exactly.
And there are people on the left that are just...
You can say whatever you can say whatever you can say whatever
assholes. And both is true.
Yep.
But the fact that you are willingly going to see and degrade it is mind-boggling.
I agree.
It's mind-boggling. I mean... I'll listen to both sides of an argument, but the moment you say this person is less than me because of whatever reason, that's when you've lost me.
Right.
You've lost me completely. And I think that's how it is with mental illness. Right. People still view it of that person as broken.
You have one of those people.
Right. Yeah. That person is broken. They're not the same as I am, therefore they don't deserve the same thing. Even the state of facilities, care facilities, is still abominable. What it was. Not what it was 75 years ago.
But, you can recognize still progress and still recognize that there's progress to be made.
Of course. I mean, I was fortunate enough to produce a show with one of my dearest friends, Mina. It was called The Asylum of Dr. Numa. It was about an 18th century insane asylum. And everything that we described in the show were actual treatments that they did. They used to poke a lunatic. They actually used to cage people that were in insane asylums, and people could come with sticks and just start poking them for like 2 bits.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean,
it was like
because they weren't human.
Like a circus.
Yeah. They weren't human anymore.
A freak show.
They shaved the heads of inmates so they could make wigs out of them. And of course, going up, and forgive me for going into this territory, if you were a woman with a mental issue, you ran the risk of being and sex trafficking.
I have no question.
Yeah. It's
horrifying.
Yeah, just horrifying.
When I think about that, I think about the story that I always tell about how, my grandfather had schizophrenia.
You were telling me about that, yeah.
And, when he and my grandmother, he was diagnosed, within a few months of he and my grandmother getting married in 1952.
Oh, wow.
And, the whole family, both sides said, get a divorce, have it dissolved, institutionalize him, and go about your life.
Yeah.
This is what they told my grandmother. and she refused to do it.
Good on her.
And she spent 47 years with this man. They took care of each other, but he was disabled.
Yeah.
He worked a little, but he really was not able to work, and for most of his life.
Of course.
And I think about that, and there's a fact I think about is the fact that that the second he received that diagnosis, every person that he knew said his life wasn't worth anything.
Exactly.
And he should just be put in an asylum and be forgotten about.
Exactly.
And if that were the case, then my father wouldn't exist, and my aunts and uncle wouldn't exist, and I wouldn't exist, and my children wouldn't be here. And, so you can't say that person's life doesn't have any value.
Exactly.
But he had one advocate until his children became adults.
Yeah.
He had one person that was on his side.
Yeah. Well, if you really want to get into the Jim Henson belief of all you need is one,
right.
Then one becomes two, and two becomes a three, what have you. There is this, and I hate to say it like this. I had a very strong advocate with my MJ. She stood up to my doctors and said, "This environment is not good for him."
Right.
He, after his 72 holds up, they wanted to hold me for an addition, and she was like, "No, this is not conducive for him. This is needs to be in, and she needs to be in." And she was right, and she stood up, said, "No, he does not need to be in here." So I'll forever be indebted to her for that.
Right.
But there are very few, because education is not there.
Right.
Advocates because they don't know they can be in.
Exactly.
It's like you said. I think we're still stuck in that whole push it into a corner, lock the door,
medicate it,
leave it alone. Exactly.
And don't look at it.
Exactly. There's still a large part of that out there. It's sad and it's disconcerting because I know I'm going to be on some type of medication for the rest of my life for my issues.
Me too.
And I was an idiot, and happened.
Right.
That's what caused me to do that. Because I and all this as a process as what I perceived to be the cause of my mental issues was dead. Medication anymore.
This is being your father.
Yeah. So I didn't need my medication anymore. That was a mistake. That was not true.
Oh, thank goodness you did not succeed in that false thinking.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's just it. I think meltdowns are like, there's, and I won't mention because I don't think they want their issues. There's a person that I know that has a mental issue. They're in the performance field as well. Oh, well, they're just having one of their moments. And they just ignore it, push it away, and go about their lives and what have you.
Right.
When it comes to the point of they tried to check out, that's when you really get the skittishness.
Right.
And I think I said it in the piece that we did. When people, all you hear is the pigeons and tap shoes just following you. And that's I'm a comic. I tell, and I'm going a little,
No, you're fine. Perfect.
I'm a comic. I make pain plus time equals all the time. Jackie Gleason. I'm making jokes about it. I gotta act now.
Right.
Not to take too much time of this.
You perfectly segued into the next question that I had,
which
was how do you use comedy? What does it mean for you with all of this? What's off limits? What's not?
Well, personal things are never off limits.
Right.
Some social things I shy away from just because I don't think the masses would find them funny or whatever. But you joke about the dark stuff. You have to. I mean, here recently, a bit I'm putting in the act, I was like, so anybody else getting off a 72-hour cycle? Me? Okay. Just me? Okay, this is fun for me. The rest about it later. We'll laugh about it later when
you feel less uncomfortable.
I go in. I didn't want help, but I check myself in. And I do a little speech back if you need help. But it's like, when you get into every of it, everyone goes through that little bit where like, no, I don't want this. This is not what I want. Listen to you. Listen to you. Listen to you. For this long,
for your whole life.
Yeah, you don't want to silence them. I told my doctor, I was like, well, I want to go home. Well, we have to hold you for 70. No, I want to leave. Well, I think it's best to listen. I'm leaving. I want to go. And You have your bald head. Listen, I have your bald-headed ass for the next 72 hours. If you screw with me on the bed, shove you down, Prozac down your throat, that you'll shit out of Christina Ricci. Don't fuck with me, buddy. But in that accent, Indian accent you have ever heard in your life. And that was my doctor. that was fun.
So in my shows and in my writing, I'm not a stand-up. Because it makes me, I would have to be an active alcoholic to be a stand-up comic.
I've been there. I was an active one.
Right. And I saw myself going down that path, and I said, this is not for me. My anxiety is too outrageous. It's outrageous. Yeah. And
I was on Cook for a number of years. I know exactly what you're saying.
And I couldn't go there.
Yeah.
So
good on you for your own health. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have lots of regrets about, things that I haven't. A cocaine dude, but a cocaine's not one of my regrets. Not one of my regrets.
No, nor should it be.
Right.
Nor should it be.
But go down that road. The reason I didn't go down that road. But I am a storyteller and I'm a writer, and I do employ humor in that way. And,
you have to.
Well,
you have to.
Well, but it's a lot of groups. I talk to a lot of groups about the healing of the healing process of writing the show and writing the book and this and through all of this and this on working with you guys on You Could See Me and all that, and hoping that I have an extra 24 hours in the day.
Right.
So, but I get a lot of pushback when I talk about taking trauma or pain, make finding humor. I mean, I have to.
Oh yeah.
And I know I have to. And I'll have to. And a lot of people get it.
Yeah.
But there's always this group or a handful of how it's traumatic. How do you think? And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not saying to get hit by a car and then go make jokes. You find that is comfortable for you and humor it.
Exactly.
And humor it.
Exactly.
And humor it.
Exactly.
And it's got to be individual.
Yeah.
But you did get right out of the hospital and immediately just
hospital. I was in the hospital actually. Yeah, but to take the sting away. You have to take the sting away from it.
Right.
Somehow. Right. You do. And I'm just going to go on a limb, and I might upset a couple of listeners here. Say the people that are like guests and say the people that can't joke about traumatic. You can't joke and probably haven't experienced that trauma.
It's entirely possible.
I'm
not ready to find humor in it.
Exactly.
Which is too.
Well, one of my big inspirations right now, say for the last 20 years, is Christopher Titus.
Right.
If you ever, because he's working with a lot of dark, traumatic subject matter in his stuff. Right. And when I met him, I told him straight up, and he said, "How was like that?" And I told him, I was like, somebody who's going through a lot of the same stuff I did, was able to make light of it, was able to turn that demon into something. I asked campus at U of R actually. I said, "What is it?" She said, "Psychology." And she said, "Psychology." And I was like, "I'm going to stop talking to you. My demons, money off of my demons, money off of my demons." I don't want you. It's. I feel like you have. You have, and I'm not saying this is light of it, but you have to acknowledge it. And if it's no longer laugh at something, it's no longer threatening.
That's what I say. That is the argument that I have.
Yeah.
Is that if I can laugh at it, it doesn't have power over me.
Exactly.
It's not the thing that I'm going to place my shame or my powerlessness into, or self-loathing or my fear of, all the, that scene in Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Well, that's me. I'm not thinking about what could go wrong in 5 minutes. I'm thinking about if I do this, then this happens, and then this happens, and then this might happen, and this might happen, and this might happen, and in 20 years, everyone will be dead, and it will be all my fault.
Exactly.
So, if I can find a way to make light of that, one of the things that I do in these groups is I say, I want you to take something about yourself that you don't like. Or shameful of, or that is uncomfortable for you, or something very trivial. It could be something very trivial.
Yeah.
And because you can't start from, at the deepest, darkest parts.
Yeah.
Take it and write it as a 30-second SNL digital short.
Yeah.
And just like make it as ridiculous as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I give them an example of, the fact that I am super ADD, extremely disorganized, always piles everywhere. Mm-hmm. Everybody who's listening can't see that we are in my office everywhere, piles everywhere.
This is not that bad comparatively.
Well, if you looked at any of the other offices up here, it's horrible.
Yeah, but that's another thing. Oh, but if I could on that, that's the other thing. I think also people that are dealing with certain mental issues. Mm-hmm. We always want to judge what we perceive to be normal.
Yes.
And then we find that shame in that. Like you said, if you look at all the other offices,
right. No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. But I do
exactly.
Because I feel abnormal in every aspect of myself and my existence. The only everybody else can do is look at everybody else and go, how are they doing this?
Exactly.
Are they normal? Yeah. Is that what normal looks like?
Yeah.
Do they worry about all this stuff like I do?
That's the thing. I think the majority of people are saying that.
Yeah, I agree.
They're doing it. What if you listen doing it? What if you look at that other person? They're probably saying the same thing
They've
about
got some other little demon or little secret they don't want you to know about.
They all have the demons, man. They all got the voices that whisper to us when we don't want them to,
Very true.
There's a great show, title of show.
Title of show. I'm familiar with it. I don't really know all that
there's
well.
A fantastic song, Die Vampire, which I highly recommend. Down, write that down. And great song, and it's just about voices that compound.
Right.
And there's this wonderful scene in the song where it's like, get that accomplished. What are you doing? Get that accomplished. What are you doing? You're running out of time. Blah, blah, blah. And then the music just stopped and says, if someone were to approach me on the street and say these things, I would dismiss them as just lunacy.
Exactly. Right.
But when they come to me in the middle of the night, they are speaking.
They're as sane as anything.
Exactly.
Totally reasonable. Right.
Exactly.
You are a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You are a terrible person.
Mm-hmm.
You are not worthy of anything. Mm-hmm. You're going to screw everything up.
Yep.
And if anybody else talked to me like that, I would be like,
oh, I'd punch him. I ain't afraid to go to jail.
Exactly.
I ain't afraid to go to jail.
Fuck is wrong?
No, I've never been to jail, and I don't want to go back.
I'm so glad.
But but that's just it. It's on paper.
Right.
I realize how fortunate and how awesome my life is on paper, and I can see it sometimes as well. And I post social media posts about it. I am a lucky individual. Mm-hmm. But then there are the other days where it's like I am the lowest piece of shit that ever existed. I am a fraud. I am a phony. There's nothing good about everybody I do. Everybody, all of those things go through my mind. Yep. The horrible mistake. Sahara app where people can give you unsolicited
advice.
God,
don't ever do that.
Oh yeah, before my last attempt a few weeks ago, I posted that, and I was yourself, and you don't belong in the scene. Yeah. You haven't done anything.
Oh, that I remember. It said something where it said people said you don't belong in the scene. I was like, fuck. First of all, who the other person say that to another person? Anybody who's of value at all is not going to say that to you, and they're certainly not going to say that to you in an app.
Yeah, but when the voice is already there, and then confirmation, that's when you really see it.
Did you delete that app?
Oh yeah. And I'll be quite honest. I fight the urge to put it back on because there's a part of
you need to have that. You need to have that validation of the negative thoughts that you have about yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I got it.
Oh
I hear
yeah.
you. I have that too.
Mm-hmm.
So how does all of this manifest in your romantic relationships?
Oh, I often say I only date girls who are sexual and polar.
Okay, that's good.
No, actually, it's kind of weird because birds of a feather do flock together. The last two serious relationships that I had, both of them, my current my friend and I as well. She is bipolar as well. Right. My last one, Alyssa, and she for me. She's still good friend of mine, and I can't say enough. A physical relationship didn't work out, and that's fine. We're still great friends.
Right.
She got me back on medication. Because I was thinking everything was fine. Everything was fine. She's the one who to get my back and to get my own mental health. Then of course what have you talked again and what have you. Currently, one who pretty much she's the one who pretty much pulled me out
she's
of
amazing.
hell. She straight out. She stood there and 5 medical students said no, doctors and said no, he's coming home wrong. He is coming home with me. And for that, she had for that, I can never
right
more manifest, right. But it manifests. I can't be with somebody who's quote unquote normal,
right?
And if understanding him, the most understanding human being that ever existed, your grandma, someone like your grandma, who,
she wasn't so understanding. But there was lots. She had her own issues.
Yeah.
She was an amazing woman, and I loved her. And my grandfather was also a man, and loved him, and they were an incredible team.
Yeah.
But you don't have that severity of mental illness in a marriage without being significant struggle. And she also had her, her fight. So, but I guess the question is, when you say you can't, who is quote unquote person, who is quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
Is it a can't? Or is it, this is a choice you don't want, make because you don't want doing it to, you're doing it to somebody, or you are, because who's not quote unquote normal, but she's great for you.
Well, understanding.
Of course.
Somebody who, it's almost like saying to somebody, hey, I'm going to get you to build, even though it's me, either experience, I have no carpentry experience whatsoever. Right. And then yelling at them for getting it wrong. That's what I mean by I can't do that to somebody. Right. If I'm always learning to be a better communicator. Right. With it, when I sit there and say my mind is not there yet,
right.
They will understand that more than someone who has never experienced that.
Absolutely.
And I can't put somebody through that rejection type of pain that's not familiar with it. It can destroy a human being.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to destroy another human being. I've had a lot of people, and I'm not me along the way. Yeah, and I'm not going to do that to somebody else.
Right. How much do you think that you're watching the relationship that you, the way that you engage in relationships?
You learn from what you know.
Of course. That seems like a dumb question, but
my just the worst at relationships ever. I mean, the man died alone. I'm not even going to fantasize it. I'm not going to. He died alone. The only 2 people that were there with him in his hospice were me and my brother Jack.
Right.
That was it. And he did that to himself. He wanted people around me, but he pushed people away. That sounds familiar.
Right.
My mother, on the other hand, and I'll say it, she's still alive. She'll probably hear this. She's massively codependent.
Right.
She's been married 8 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
3 and 4, my mom 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 3.
Yeah.
And most people go, oh my gosh, but I don't know anybody whose parents did.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It was Craig Elder. It was my dad. It was Ron Perlman, Donald Bowman. Mike Page. All these folks. It was to whom it. Say I sent a card out to whom it may concern. It's a thing I do. But with that, and I don't want to say I saw what they did and I try to do the opposite because it was wrong, but that's what happens. Right. I don't want to be dependent on anybody, and that's a fault that I have in my relationships. I don't want anybody to be dependent, for me to be dependent on anybody. Granted, I love for people to be dependent on me.
Right.
So there's...
That's difficult.
That's
have
very
it one
difficult.
way and not the other.
Yeah. Whenever my girlfriend even attempts to buy me a coffee, I'm like, no, I'm not an invalid. I can take care of myself. That type of thing. So watching that relationship, I make a lot of the same mistakes they did.
Right.
But also one of those, I'm very mindful of their behavior.
Clearly.
Yeah.
It's very clear that you're very mindful. It's funny. I was working with a coach, and then I was doing a program that I was doing a couple of years ago. And all of that stuff came up for me. All of that, you know, like, I don't want to need anybody. I don't want to like put anybody out ever. I don't ever want to be the cause of anyone else's inconvenience. So, you know, and I said, and she said, well, what? I said, I'll always need you. I said, I'll always be there if I can. I'm always she's selfish, really selfish, that you would give that to someone else, but you wouldn't let them give that to you.
Of course not.
And I was like, well, I mean, I hear what you're saying.
I don't really need your logic right now.
But it was the first time anybody ever kind of put that into perspective for me. And when, you know, you get the gift of being able to give to other people, and you know how that feels, but you don't for you. And I do that for you. Feel comfortable. Never will feel comfortable with it. It's always a challenge for me. I have a hard time being around people because at some point I'm going to need help with a thing that I'm not going to want to ask for help with. You know, I mean, there have been times where at work, I get migraines. And so sometimes I'll get, you know, a debilitating migraine for 2 days, and I'll have an event or something. And my colleagues will have to cover for me. It makes me want to like live under a rock that I would ever put anybody in a situation where they would be inconvenienced.
Exactly.
And they're okay with it. And they're like, dude, we're here. It's fine. Don't die. It's unbearable.
It's the world to me. Perfect thing in the world to me. It truly is the most horrific thing in the world.
Why do you think that is? I mean, here we are now. We're going to analyze ourselves.
Well,
I'm curious.
I've actually been thinking about this for a couple of weeks now. Because if something bad happens to me, that's okay. If something bad happens to somebody else, problem.
Because I feel the weight of the world on me, and I feel guilty about everything. I feel responsible for everything.
Exactly. Well, and that's kind of why. I mean, I have 2 friends that were very dear to me, and I massively pushed them away. I touched on this earlier, and I pushed them away because I didn't want them to be put out on what I was about to do.
I hear that.
If they're pissed at me, they won't care that I killed myself. That was my thought process.
Now, were you conscious of that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was an incident that occurred where I saw the window of opportunity to do this. And that's what happened. I wasn't conscious of it at the time, but looking back on it, I'm like, that's exactly what you were doing. It's exactly what you were doing. I mean, I made the plan out so MJ would not find me. I already had that thing. That whole thing. They're not going to be inconvenienced by me. And I love to do good for people. I do. It makes me feel great. It makes me awesome, wonderful. And I'm not tooting my own horn. That's why all the charity events, things of this nature.
I know.
I'm allowed to do for other people. No one's allowed to do for me. Because it's a voice in the back of my head. If they're gonna get closer to you, and when you do something wrong, it's gonna hurt them.
And it's going to hurt you when you lose them.
Exactly.
When they find out that you're not what they thought you were.
Exactly.
And you can only pretend for so long.
Yeah, and that's still a constant struggle.
Yeah. Me too.
I mean, I've not to get too crass on this, and I apologize.
Please be crass. It's very entertaining.
with what I do, with the performance aspect of it, especially with the traveling, I go into a lot of places, and I'm up on stage, and I'm doing my thing, and you're like a rock star for us. So you know, from the singing and the performance,
absolutely.
You know, you get all people, oh wow, you're so blah blah
great,
blah 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 blah. You're so wonderful, so awesome. And when they see that you're just being another human being, that you're not this thing, that the mask comes terrifying.
So true.
Yeah, that's just so super terrifying. Because when they see the real you, you can't hide anymore.
That's right.
You can't hide anymore. Then
it's too real.
Yeah.
It's too immediately too potentially damaging.
Exactly.
Terrifying.
Exactly.
Huh.
Exactly.
We're both going to need to go to therapy after this.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, and that's just it. I'm gonna go back into therapy, and I'm looking for a good therapist.
Yeah, me too. I've been looking for one for like 3 years.
Yeah.
I found one, and she didn't stop talking the whole time I was there.
Yeah. Oh God. See, that's
like,
what
dude.
This is about me right now. Okay, this is literally about me right now. Okay?
I'm paying you to listen to me. Why are you talking
so much?
Yeah.
Just
not good.
Just no.
So if you find a good one, let me know.
I will. But that's just it. It's because we're we got the masks on all the time, and we're supposed to go to somebody to show them the real us, but they can't see the real us. No. And so it's
very hard. I mean, it really is. It's so funny because I've been in therapy a few times three times in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized the first time I went back to therapy as like a parent with kids and as an adult, as like an adolescent, or a young adult.
Yeah.
Different.
About the thing. Children aspect of things.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Why people would do it?
Well, yeah. But not. Why would you do that? You know, not in that aspect of going back to what we were talking about. The whole, I'm allowed to do for other people, but nobody for me thing.
Well, it's real easy when you just surround yourself with people who only doing for them.
Exactly.
Doing for them.
Exactly.
In reciprocation.
Yeah, so, children are assholes.
They're designed that way. Exactly. If that's you've probably screwed them up.
Well, see, and there's such an admiration, and I admire people that have children because I can't have kids. Not just because the judge told me, but because. But no, because my rearing as a kid, and there are tons of people that had it far worse than me. Mm-hmm. I don't want this to turn into
it's not pain is your pain. Blah, blah, blah. Your pain is your
the way I was reared, I wouldn't know how, and plus all of this, which mental illness can be passed on.
I think about it all the time.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
That's a fear of mine, and plus the fact now that I'm over 40,
right?
And that leads to health complications as well. There's a greater risk of Down syndrome. Well, father, can also. Increase of Down syndrome increases by 25%. Autism also increases.
You don't look 40.
Appreciate that. I look 90. This is what children's theater does to it. Right here. Right here. Right here.
It's all shaved off.
It's all shaved off. So like a friend of mine, you're bald and stuff. She's like, you're bald. You could be 30, or you could be 30, or you could be 80. We don't know.
So it's good. It's good. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Yeah. It's just. Because of my mental state, children have always been a no-go for me.
Right.
I mean, I had a couple of relationships where it was like, nope, sorry, it's not in the cards. It won't be. And I can't do it. Not because I'm not physically able to. No. I'm sorry, I got disgusting. But no, I can't run the risk of passing something on.
Right.
And plus, they say, well, nobody really knows until it happens. No, I really don't know how to parent. Whenever there was an issue with my father, he told us to go in the backyard and break wood with our hands. It was part of our martial arts training.
It's interesting.
Yeah, he had this giant wood pile in his backyard that was filled with doors and old 2x4s and everything of this nature. He would just told us to go in the backyard and just break them apart with our hands. So yeah, have someone who has violent tendencies go and destroy things on a regular basis.
At least there was like a designated location.
Yeah,
for you to go
but
do
the
that.
problem with the designated location and us being cis white men, we believe everything is our designated location after a while.
No, I hear that.
And manifests and everything else.
True.
It's manifest destiny.
That's right. No, it's true.
Yeah. So the only way I teach really is through fear and of things. So I'm somebody to be healthy member of society, whatever that means. I have a lot of love to give, but I don't know how to give it, especially to somebody who is an empty vessel at that point. John Leguizamo did that wonderful bit in his act. He was like, I was looking at my newborn daughter did. I was glad I did. Fuck her up.
Yep. It's true. I mean, there is a certain, and I'm not going to discount or invalidate anything that you're saying about for yourself, because, you know,
I understand.
People don't have to have children. No. There's not you can have kids. You can have kids. You cannot have kids. I have no judgment for a person who chooses to have them or doesn't have them. It's your decision.
Yeah.
If you don't feel comfortable doing it, then by all means, don't.
Yeah.
There are lots of people who have children because they think they're supposed to.
Yeah, like here's my kid that matches my couch.
That's right. And they don't want to be parents. They're not interested in being parents. And, you know, they never thought beyond, you know, oh, well, I'm supposed to get married and have kids and buy a house and do, you know, have the job and the car and the, you know, vacation and all that stuff. And, you know, so, you know, it's fine.
Yeah.
The thing that I do know and that I tell all of my parent friends who, you know, express the concern about, you know, I'm just going to fuck them up. Yes. The answer to that is yes.
Yes, you will.
Because there's no person who was born to a parent who knew how to be a parent.
Exactly.
Not one person on this planet.
No.
It's it's not.
Oh yeah.
It's not something we know how to do. Parents know how to do it. Their parents know how to do it either. Now, certainly, there are people who are very good at certain things, and they're very patient, and they're very regimented, and they're very all of these things that children really thrive on. Yeah. Guess what? I have 3 children.
Yes, and they're delightful. I've seen them. I worked with them on the...
yes, you did. Yeah. And I am none of those things.
I will disagree on a lot of those.
I am not patient, and I am not...
You've known me for 20 years. You are quite obviously patient.
I am not... I'm not organized at all. I am not regimented at all. If I could live my life every day in a different order,
I'm the same.
Would do that.
I'm the same way.
I don't like every room the same way. Exactly. I don't like you do things in the same order. I don't ever put the thing back in time makes the same time every time. So when I say that to my children, if you would just put it back in the same place every time, I feel like an asshole. I don't do that. I don't do that. I never do that.
No, who does?
So, no, right. Well, a lot of people do. That's what I'm finding. Yeah. So I'm not even in the least bit prepared or qualified to be reading. God willing, they all grow up.
Well, they're delightful. I've met them. You have they really are. You have family. Wonderful.
I do have a wonderful. I was not prepared for it. I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm not convinced you to have kids. But I'm just saying, like, I fuck up all the time.
No. Well, yeah. Well, no, and that's just it. It's going back to the whole thing. I'm allowed to hurt myself, but I'm not allowed to hurt other people. And that's
I try not to hurt them.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I probably do.
Oh, yeah. Well, everyone.
There are probably times when I say, don't do that. Someone will take you. And I'm traumatized.
Yes.
Don't, run away from me in the store because you'll get kidnapped.
Well, if you can't traumatize, part of the thing. That's part of the thing. That's the deal. You came out of me. I'm allowed to mess with you.
I'm allowed to mess with you.
Yeah, scar. It's the emotional scar. That lasts.
It's the
giving, right?
It's on
giving, right?
In my show, I have this whole bit about guilt. And passed down from grandmother to mother to you.
Oh yeah.
All true, and then I talk about all the ways, in different ways in which people tried to manipulate me and make me feel guilty about things throughout my life, and then all the ways that I do that to my own
children. I learned from the best. I learned from the best.
There's no question. And I have that sort of. You have where. I have on one side of my family, I have a bunch of, self-loathing Southern Baptists who everything's like internal and everything is like passive aggressive and nobody ever says what they mean. And then I have a lot of Jewish food-related guilt. Is like big and vocal and tell you. I'm going to tell you right to your face. This is I'm not as far away as I will be when I'm dead.
Exactly.
That's what my Bobby said to me when I didn't visit her often enough. And I said she was too far away.
Well, it's the old adage that Jewish, how many Jewish like, oh no, don't worry about me. I'll just sit alone with the dog and die.
It's like that Mike Nichols.
Yeah.
Bit about, where what Meg.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah,
Elaine May.
Yeah.
And she said she was playing mother, and she said, you haven't told me, and I've been sitting by the phone. I hadn't eaten in 2 days because I was afraid my mouth would be full when you called. And it's like the most perfect hysterical Jewish mother bit in history. And I just I was afraid my mouth would be full
when you called.
It's the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah, but that's my mother's speaking. That's my mother's speaking.
That was my girl.
Well, that's just it. But that's just it. Because Southern. She was also Southern as well. So you had the guilt, but you also had the deflection. So there was that as well. And nothing's ever wrong with anybody in the family.
Right.
Until it's time to throw the guilt out.
Right.
That's when it's wrong. That's when it's wrong.
So you never know where you stand.
Exactly.
Right. So you're always walking around. Well, that's that, sort of like comparing and, looking at the world and going, well, are they judging me or are they not?
Yeah.
And, I just used to have that everybody in the family would talk about each other behind their backs.
Exactly.
And so I grew up listening to everybody talk about how much they, they didn't hate each other. They loved each other.
Of course.
But they, I had a problem with this one, and this one has a problem with that one, and that one hates that one, and this one hurt this one's feelings, and nobody says anything, and nobody talks about it. And then you walk around and go, what are they saying about me?
Me, exactly. Oh, yeah.
And so then you just assume that everybody's talking about everybody, and you can't trust anybody.
Well, that was part of my problem. Because I got a lot of awesome people that I know that I work with. I mean, I've been a professional performer for 22 years. Right. I'm doing something right, but they just tolerate me.
Right.
To have me around.
No question.
Yeah, because they don't want me around things, be a part of things. Right. They tolerate me for the stage and all this other stuff. Yep. My family felt my family. You love your family. Right. You love your family, but if they weren't related to you, how
much would you be around them?
No. I love all of my family, but if they were not related to me, I would never talk to any of these people ever.
I did that when you boil it right down, what I had, which was a gift. I had a lot of chaos. I had a lot. My mother is also has bipolar disorder, and my parents got divorced a lot, and we moved around a lot, and and there was a lot of chaos. There was an enormous amount of love in my family, and a lot of humor, and so I do feel like, and my parents did not fight. That's probably the greatest.
What was that like?
They didn't like each other. Exactly.
Yeah.
But they didn't fight. They just did. They barely talked to each other. But they didn't. There was no. Your father did this. Your mother did this. They just didn't talk badly about each other. And I look at my experience.
Yeah.
I can understand why having children would be terrifying. Husband was a part of a divorced family as well. His parents didn't fight. It's weird when divorced people don't fight with each other. It's like a friggin' miracle that he and I found each other.
Yeah.
And decided to have kids.
Yeah.
Because his stepmother, his father died back in 2002. And his parents, like I said, they were divorced, and he had been remarried. She's single, and she lives on her own, and she's aware of herself, and she's an awesome lady. And but my father-in-law got remarried, another awesome lady, and he passed away. And now the mom and the stepmom go out to lunch, and they call each other.
Kind of awesome.
And they have this friendship that is fantastic.
That's awesome. That's very awesome.
It's weird,
but
in a great way, but it's weird in that it's just abnormal.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not saying, I have this amazing family and everybody's great, because it's not true. Everybody's crazy, just like everybody else is crazy.
Exactly.
But when you like dissect what the experience is of, you know, how it decides to go in one direction or another direction,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of compile all the different things.
Oh, yeah.
You had love, you had humor, family had, you know, family closeness, but just that relationship between your two and how that kind of understand how that kind of poisoned the well.
It was fire, beyond fire and water. And again, I'm not getting on the pity. I remember when my mother got divorced from Dexter.
That's some name.
Yeah, Dexter, and it's like soap opera level. Dexter Overstreet.
That's right.
She moved us to my dad's house.
Right.
Of course, my sister, two brothers, my sister, they were not Karen. They were not his children, but he brought them in. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it takes a big guy to bring in somebody else's children to help out with that. Mm-hmm. But, you know, there was still some negative stuff there. Mm-hmm. Well, there was a fight one night. My mother's room phone threw it across the room, hit my dad in the back of the head, you know, busted his head open. Guns came off the wall, you know, the whole nine. Right. It was a lot of traumatic stuff that happened. Of course, later on, you know, in life, we're like, yeah, don't mess with mom. Remember when she took the M16 off the wall and tried to kill dad? Remember when that happened? That was her husband.
You had an M16 on the wall?
My father had several guns. My father actually was arrested one time for converting semi-automatic weapons to fully automatic weapons.
Oh my!
Yeah,
gosh.
He was facing 85 years in prison.
And what happened?
He was declared competent and sentenced to the E1 ward over at the McGuire's Veterans Hospital.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, he spent 6 months in a loony bin.
He needs a loony bin.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna ding us on that one.
Oh well, you know what? Bottom line, I'm going with the Maya Angelou comment of never run away from a negative title, because you should embrace it, make it a part of you, because no one can harm you with your own self. I'm fine with saying that. I turn to MJ all the time when, you know, she says, you do so much for me. And I'm like, no, you do for me. And she's like, no, I don't take care of you like you take care of me. I'm like, you got me out of the nut barn.
The nut barn.
Okay. I mean, who can't laugh at it? Who's got, you know, I mean, like you said earlier,
it's absolutely
you know,
it's absolutely true.
It's a thing. You know, I was there, and I guarantee
it's yours. It's yours to claim.
Mine. I can do with it what I want. But the trauma of a lot of that stuff also leads into my whole fear of children, because that was what I saw. That was my upbringing. Right. What's going to stop me from doing that? If you're in an abusive upbringing, you're most likely going to be, the odds are stacked against you to, you know, continue that problem. And
I don't think that that's always true. Yeah. I understand what you're saying, and it's certainly
it's not always true. Of course,
but it's your decision, and I respect it fully. And I think you'd be a good dad.
Why? Thank you. I appreciate that. If it's any consolation, lots of people call me daddy, but that's another story entirely. By the way, Fallout RV.
That's right. Go for it. Plug whatever you want.
Why not? No. No. Well, the fear of passing it along. And also, this is another one that came up with me. This is my 3 weeks ago with my own life. My own life. And I'd like to think that that'll never happen, but I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know where my mind's going to go, and that's a scary process. And you know just as well as I do, not being able to trust your. Let's say I have a family. Let's say I get married and I have the kids and all of that. What if that happens? How am I going to explain that to them? And if I'm not here to explain that to them, how much of that are they going to use to question themselves? Like, did we do this? Are we the cause of this? And that's going to. The biggest crime to me is the willful destruction of innocence. If you destroy it, that's the most unpardonable sin.
Agreed. I agree with that more than I can say.
Yeah. And to do that would be destroying their innocence. I can't do that. I'm not saying that I would, but that is what keeps me away from it. Because that'd be an awesome, Dad. I'd paint kids up and we'd go out trick-or-treating in July. Just to my people. Like, trick-or-treat, it's July. I know. Where's the candy? I'm diabetic, but I want some sugar.
Well, how's that going?
That's going well. That's something that I was discovered in my last admission. I am apparently diabetic, which my blood sugar was through the roof, and that also contributed,
of course,
to the mental state. But it's going well.
Really hard. Getting off sugar is really hard.
Well, I don't have to get off sugar. I just have to monitor it and monitor my insulin. You know,
kind of all or nothing kind of gal, all or nothing kind of gal.
Right. Well, now, and that's just it. And I'm making jokes about that. You know, even with MJ and I joke about that. She checks, hey, did you do your insulin? And I'm like, oh yeah, I shot up this morning. You know, I mean, like, upset some folks here, upset some folks here. Like, you know, I'll cause taking. I think we talked about this in front of somebody. Taking my meds in front of somebody was always. I always had me, even though I was meds.
Right.
Even though I was open about my illness, even though I was open about my meds in front of. Well, now.
Right.
I'll do that now.
Right.
So you know, I'll grab my insulin pen and just time to taste the dragon, you know, type of thing. And she'll right in front of her, and she'll laugh and all that other stuff. And you know, but again, that's how I cope.
Right.
You know, if people don't cope that way, they don't cope that way.
That's right.
But
exactly.
That's me, and I'm trying. I don't ever want to go back.
Right.
And I hope I don't.
Right.
But I can't promise that I won't. And that goes back to the whole thing. I can't promise that I won't have another slip up.
Mm-hmm.
So for me in my relationships, it's really hard, one, to trust people,
mm-hmm.
to be vulnerable in front of people,
right.
But I'll be so selfish to say, oh yeah, by the way, I don't know if I'm going to have an episode that's going to cause you to, you know, so, you know, so. Yeah. Yeah. That's where I am.
It's really, life is hard.
Yeah.
And this is one of the easiest conversations about really difficult things I've ever. Well, thank you. Well, thank you.
It's been very.
Is there before we go, because I told you it would be like 30, 45 minutes, and I think we've been talking for like 2 hours.
Oh, so, Jesus.
No, it's okay. That's great.
Yeah.
That's terrific. There was no point at which I wanted to stop.
Oh, good. So, cool. Very cool.
Meaning.
Yeah.
And what that meaning.
Yeah.
And what that means to you. What that means to you when you hear those words, and you know how you think, and maybe we've already covered this, but you know, what you think that means, and how we can continue kind of putting that out into the world.
Transparency means transparency.
Mm-hmm.
For transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Transparency.
Mm-hmm.
I think the veil is lifted. And if people could see me, and they could see a lot of people suffering with different types of mental illness, they would be more comfortable with who they are and with what they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
You feel bad about yourself because you don't have any shoes until you see somebody with no feet.
Right.
And I think that's what it is for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an important conversation that needs to be had. People need to see other individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think once you see somebody for who they are, you'll accept yourself.
And you can't judge them either.
No. If we're all being open and honest with what's going on, both with ourselves physically and mentally, nobody can judge you because they're dealing with their own stuff too. It'll take away all the stigma. Right.
Yeah, I mean, judgment is born out of fear.
Exactly. And fear leads to hate, and hate is the dark side.
That's right, Yoda. Thank you, Yoda. Master Yoda has spoken.
Exactly, and only a Sith deals in absolutes. So, you know.
How, my husband will be very impressed, by the way. I knew what you were just saying.
He's a geek too, huh?
Oh my gosh. The first non-date that we ever had was, this is totally off topic. We were hanging out.
Oh yeah.
Okay? The infamous before we were dating. We watched all three this was before the prequels.
There were no prequels, so I don't know what you're talking about.
All three Star Wars films back to back in one afternoon.
And wow.
Yeah.
And we've had the sci-fi conversation before. You must have really liked him.
I really liked him. I did.
Wow.
We'll just end it there.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
liked him. That was a big sacrifice for me. I appreciate him more now.
Yes.
But
yes.
it was a lot in one afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Where can people find you?
Of course, I'm on Facebook. Just there with social media there with that. I got a couple of shows that I'm producing that are coming up soon.
Cool. But what are they? When are they?
Well, actually, November 19th. Well, actually, this weekend I'm going up to a girls pinup studio. I'm doing some shows there. Then I'm at the Richmond Funny Bone the last week of September, and then October I've got a couple of Halloween themed productions that I'm doing.
Cool.
November, I have It Came from Vaudeville.
I love it.
Sci-fi vaudeville show that I'm putting up that I was supposed to put up before my little trip in. Right? Yeah, before I went up. But no, that's all coming up. And hopefully sometime in the near future, if you could see me now, maybe again another
I
one
would
of those.
love that.
That'd be great. I'll don the bowler hat one more time. Why not?
Our MC.
That'll work. I would love that. That would be great.
I loved that.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Your performance was exactly what it needed to be. It was funny. It was poignant. It was intense. Yeah. It was all the things. I've actually got chills.
A lot of people say they hate the show I'm doing currently. I know we have to end this.
No, it's okay.
Brett Wardling, who was an amazing, amazing human being. I can't say enough great things about him. He was like, okay, Ray, this next show we're doing, the entire cast is not allowed to cry on stage because it is a Robin Williams show.
That's right, Robin Williams show. That Robin Williams show is amazing.
Yeah. But all of that, if I'm going to make you laugh, you're going to shed a tear or two, punk.
I think that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
When I'm standing on a stage and someone is crying, has tears streaming down their face because they have been crying, and then they just start laughing hysterically.
Yeah.
Like, that's my favorite. It's my favorite thing. It's all you can't live in one emotion or the other.
No.
The best possible thing is just to have them all.
Exactly.
And
being bipolar, we do.
Right. Yay.
I hate being bipolar. It's awesome.
I love that. You posted that on Facebook recently, and I totally love that.
Yeah.
Ray Bullock, you are a treasure and a gem, and I love you so very much.
You are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And okay, we're done. Everybody, have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.